Hey, what's going on? Luke here. For today's video, we're going to be going over the State of Origin Game 3 sides for 2021. Now, the New South Wales Blues hold a 2-0 lead. They can't lose this series, but they're looking for a clean sweep. This time, there's going to be two brand new halves. Mitchell Moses and Jack Wighton are in the side. Now, we knew Jack Wighton was going to be in the side. They'd already come out and said that he was going to be there, but it was just a matter of who was going to replace him and who was going to replace Nathan Cleary, because Jerome Luai was out, Nathan Cleary is out, so they ended up going with Mitchell Moses. So that's going to be the big talking point. But Abby Coruscant comes in for Jack Wighton's spot, so effectively replaces Jerome Luai as Jack Wighton comes into Luai's spot. Now, I think majority of the talk about the New South Wales side is going to be around that, but let's just go through the actual side itself. So at fullback, it is James Tedesco. On the wings, it's Brian Tuo and Josh Adokar. The centers, Trbojevic and Latrell Mitchell. The halves, like we talked about, Mitchell Moses and Jack Wighton. The forward pack is Daniel Safidi, Damien Cook, Junior Paulo. The back row, Cameron Murray, Tarek Sims, Isaiah Yeo. And the bench is Abby Coruscant, Angus Crichton, Payne Haas, and Liam Martin. So just the three changes, just the three that were needed. Well, three changes, but two new players. So, like we said, Jack Wighton moves from the bench into the starting 5'8" role. Mitchell Moses is the halfback. I actually thought that there might have been a possibility of Adam Reynolds and Cody Walker getting the gig just due to the sort of club factor, the club combo. There's a lot of players in the same club. Damien Cook's at the hook position. You got Latrell Mitchell, Cameron Murray there. So there is a big Rabbitohs influence in this side, just as there was a Panthers influence. So I thought maybe they would have went with that, especially when they came out and talked about who was going to replace Jerome Luai. The first thing they said was, well, Jack Wighton, we nearly picked him, but we went with the club combo because we thought it was a little bit more effective. So I was like, well, by that logic, shouldn't you be going with Adam Reynolds, who's been in Origin before, won a premiership, and Cody Walker, who's literally there last year. I know he hasn't really got the job done or particularly played that well for New South Wales, but give him another crack. He's up against a pretty weak Queensland side. But look, the halves combination, honestly, I don't really rate it too high. If both of those guys were in the side in terms of the halves, with say like Jack Wighton, if his halves partner was Nathan Cleary, or if Mitchell Moses' halves partner was Jerome Luai, I'll be way more confident just having one of them. But look, having two new guys into the halves, I think it is quite risky, especially when we get into the Queensland side, because I think this is the strongest Queensland side, while this is the weakest New South Wales side. Hopefully the New South Wales crowd gets us home. Where it's played, I don't know, because it is a home game for New South Wales, but is it going to be in Sydney? Is it going to be in Newcastle? Is it going to be somewhere else? Who the hell knows? As long as I get to go to the game, I don't care. But in terms of this lineup, it's very strong. It's just the halves are a little bit of an issue in my opinion. But I think just the fact that the rest of the side is still so strong. You got Latrell there, you got Tommy Turbo in great form. I just can't see New South Wales getting beat. I think it'll be a lot tighter, but I just can't see him getting beat with this side, despite having Mitchell Moses and Jack Wighton there. I don't think Jack Wighton, obviously he's playing in a shit Raiders side. I don't think he's been that bad. He's just playing in a bad side. And Mitchell Moses, he had a perfect chance to sort of cement his spot in the New South Wales side, and I think he already had cemented his spot, but just in terms of like your general viewer watching, he had a perfect opportunity to win the game against Penrith, and this was a Penrith side that had no Nathan Cleary. Jerome Luai got injured in that game, and Matt Burton didn't even play in the halves, so it was a very weakened Penrith side, and they weren't playing well, and Parramatta still couldn't get the job done. Now I know they're missing Reid Marnie, and Queensland are missing Reid Marnie, and they're really missing him. He's such a great player, such a fantastic player, and it's really shown this year how valuable he is to that Eels side. But Mitchell Moses really could have stood up, and he could have got them home. At the end of the game, he took a field goal attempt from way out. I think it was like 40 metres out. That was just never going to happen. It was never going to happen, and it gave Penrith a perfect opportunity to go up and kick a field goal, which they did. And then at the end, obviously, they got the penalty. It was a dumb move by Liam Martin, but he ended up missing. It was 30 out from the sideline, so I don't blame him for missing it, but it was just like one of those moments that he could have just cemented his spot and went into Origin full of confidence and had the backing of whole New South Wales. They would have went, oh, he just sealed the game against Penrith. Let's see how he goes in Origin. Instead, he goes into Origin after losing a pretty big game. So it's not exactly what you want to see, especially considering the finals record of the Eels. They don't really tend to play too well under pressure. But look, Junior Paulo plays pretty well for them. He's the only other Parramatta player in the side, so maybe he can form a little bit of a combination for him. But look, if there was a replacement in terms of a like for like, I think Mitchell Moses is your closest player, and Jack Wighton I think was always going to get a gig just due to the fact that he's been waiting in the wings and nearly got to go this year, and so they went with Jerome Luai. So look, I don't hate Jack Wighton getting picked. I don't hate Mitchell Moses getting picked. It's more so I don't necessarily like him as a halves combo, but we'll have to see how they go. Hopefully Mitchell Moses can step up. I know he has a couple blow-ups in him. I don't think he'd be doing that at Latrell Mitchell or Tom Trbojevic or any of the players around him. I think they'll be strong enough to get them home, and Mitchell Moses sort of just be the beneficiary of it. But hey, at least he gets a go at Origin. His salary is going to rise, I'm assuming, because he's playing for Origin, so maybe it's going to turn Mitchell Moses into that superstar we know he can be, but he just hasn't hit those heights yet. But hey, he's getting a go for New South Wales. Probably his only chance. Probably the only time we'll see this halves combination. Also, I just want to touch on Api Koroisau on the bench. I think well deserved. Hasn't got to go yet this season just because Damien Cook has been so good, and he always is for New South Wales. And I don't think, like realistically, while Damien Cook is in the mix, he's going to be the New South Wales hooker, and Api Koroisau is going to be the backup. Now, with the utility spot there, Koroisau can play in the halves, he can play hooker, and the rest of the forwards and the backs, they're so versatile anyways, and I think they can cover positions. So I have no problems with Koroisau being there. I hope he does get a go. Hopefully, New South Wales have a bit of a lead where Koroisau can come on, even if he just comes on for Damien Cook. Just like Damien Cook doesn't need a break, but if you can give him a break, he'll be even better. So look, I'm happy with Koroisau on the bench there. But we've been talking about the New South Wales side long enough. It's time to touch on the Queensland side. So let's go through their side. It is a very different side to what has been Game 1 and Game 2 side. So let's start off with the fullback. It's Kalyn Ponga. On the wings, we have Valentine Holmes and Xavier Coates. In the centres, we have Dan Gagai and the Hammer from Cowboys. In the halves, we have Cameron Munster and Cherry Evans. So the only real change is Kalyn Ponga comes in, but he's been named a couple of times. But Kalyn Ponga comes in. He was really good for the Knights this past week too. And I think he'll add a lot to the Queensland side. Even just the threat of him with the ball. Because I feel like when Valentine Holmes gets the ball, you're not going to expect him to do a mad step or throw a nice cutout pass or just do anything really. Like he can finish if he's got an open line. If he can just run straight, he's good. But apart from that, Valentine Holmes doesn't really offer much apart from being fairly safe under the high ball. But Kalyn Ponga, definitely a threat. You got the Hammer, he's also another threat. You can get the ball out to him. I do think he will struggle big time up against the New South Wales centres. I'm not sure who he would be up against exactly. I'm assuming he's going to be up against Tom Trbojevic, so that could be interesting because we know he's quite fast, but Tom Trbojevic is very, very fast. We also know Tom Trbojevic is super powerful, and I'm not sure how the Hammer will go in the centres in terms of defence. So that could be interesting. I think Kurt Capewell, although he did struggle, I'm not sure if the Hammer is the answer. I'm not even sure if he's an actual centre. So we'll see how he goes. But the halves, they're the same. Moving on to the forwards, Christian Welch, Ben Hunt, Josh Papali'i, Kurt Capewell, Felice Kafusi, and Jai Arrow round out the starting side. The bench is Brimson, Big Tino, we've got Big Moe, and we have Dave Fafita, and then Kurt Mann, Francis Molo, and Thomas Flagler are the extended bench. Just on the forward pack, I think it's a much better forward pack. Even though the forward pack for Queensland has been fairly decent throughout the whole series, I don't think that's been the weak point for them. I think they've been able to match it. I know the New South Wales forward pack's been very, very strong as well. You've had guys like Payne Haas be able to come off the bench and kill it, whereas you guys like David Fafita haven't really done too much. But just in terms of the names of the forward pack, I like Kurt Capewell in the back row. Kafusi's still there. Jai Arrow in the lock position. I think he's a good player. I think he's perfect for the lock position. I know they played him on the edge in Game 2, and I thought he did a fairly good job, but I think his position is the lock position. But the big one for me is Ben Hunt in the hooker position. I think he's easily the best hooker they could pick. I know they went with Andrew McCullough for the last game. I think their goal was just to defend as much as they could and try and hold on. And it kind of worked a little. Actually, it didn't work at all. Let's be honest, it didn't work. Andrew McCullough did absolutely nothing. The only time they looked half decent was when Ben Hunt was on the field. So having him on the field for the 80 minutes, I think that's the way to go. And that's exactly how they've gone. Also, like I said, Kurt Capewell in the back row, I think is a big inclusion. I think he's big, he's mobile. We've seen him score a lot of tries at Penrith. We've just seen him be an absolute menace for Penrith too. And just because he can play in the centres doesn't mean that he should. So I think it's good that they got him out of the centres, even just for his own confidence, just get him out of there because he was getting torn apart by Tom Trbojevic. So look, I think it's a better side overall. Even the bench, like Fodder has been good for them. Brimson back into the side. I know in Game 1 they didn't really know where to play him. I think they're going to struggle as well to sort of where do you play Brimson when he comes on. But I think if the game's sort of on the line to a degree, if they're sort of in the mix and you've got a tight Blues forward pack, I think Brimson can go through. We saw him go through a couple of times for the Titans in the past game. So we know Brimson, we know what he's capable of. It's just a matter of whether he can be effective in the Origin arena off the bench. We know if he starts, he's very good, but just off the bench, I'm not so sure. This is kind of what we're talking about with Jack Wighton. He's so effective. He's exactly what you want in terms of bench utility because he can play everywhere. Whereas Queensland don't really have anyone to do that. I know Koroisau doesn't really do it for New South Wales, but just when White was on the bench, he could cover the forwards, he can cover the backs. Whereas Brimson, he can only really cover the backs and the half. So yeah, look, it is a great side for Queensland. It is the strongest side that they fielded. Do I think they're going to win? I don't, just based off the teams, but I do think it's going to be a lot closer. I think mostly because of the New South Wales halves. But look, let me know in the comment section below, what are your thoughts on both of these sides? Do you rate them? Do you like them? Do you hate them? Do you dislike them? Let me know. Also, if you happen to enjoy this video, make sure you go ahead and smash the like button and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. Also, make sure to turn on the notification bell. It's super important in terms of you actually seeing these videos. Don't rely on the sub boxes, use the notification bell. Also, give me a follow on social media. It's on the screen right now. It's Mr. Luke and YT for the most part. My Facebook is just Mr. Luke, but everything else is Mr. Luke and YT. So go ahead and give me a follow, give me a like, do all that sort of stuff. And stay tuned for more content on the channel. State of Origin's coming up, as is the next round of the NRL. So, like I said, stay tuned for more content on the channel. I'll see you in the next one. See yous.